Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything that revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
It's Monday morning after the majority of the FA Cup ties have all been played, bar one to go this evening. But there's an FPL deadline at the end of the week, so we can get ourselves back into FPL mode, James.
Does anybody want to be in FPL mode at the moment?
It's probably reflected by the Twitter questions that we've had that a lot of people don't want to be in FPL mode right now. We just heard yesterday, obviously, that Everton-Leicester tomorrow is off, which means obviously then your likes of yourself with DCL and a few have gambled on Damari Grays and Michael Keane's and may even have gone in on Harvey Barnes or anything Leicester-wise. I've just been kicked in the cojones a little bit.
I've seen a few Dominic Calvert-Lewin captaincies knocking about, which will be, that's the one that would be particularly frustrating to people. I must say I've only got DCL, so it's probably a little bit easier for myself, but my reaction to it is not mass surprise. It's just another element of what's getting added at the moment that we can have no influence over whatsoever. It doesn't mean that the decision process in the first place to buy these players was particularly wrong. We knew when we bought these players, right, the game was going to be 10 days later. Anything could happen over that period, right? We could have had an outbreak at West Ham, anything, right?
Listen,
no one knows.
Like yesterday, you obviously clearly didn't watch our game because you were at Spurs, but
I was watching a game at Tottenham.
There was a moment in the first half where Antonio stretched for a chance and then went down holding his lower calf and shin because he'd overdone it. Trainers came on. Everybody's just looking at it thinking, oh my God, don't get injured before the double game week fixture and stuff. So COVID is one problem that could have arisen from the weekend. Injuries is quite clearly another. There was a 10-day gap, like you mentioned. So you got to take the rough with the smooth with this one. I think it's probably why something like triple captain wasn't on the cards for me because the gap was too big and too risky. Interestingly, taking West Ham as an example, obviously in the pre-match notes and the program, David Moyes had talked about how he was a little frustrated that the Norwich game was 3 days after and so there wasn't that much turnaround time, yet he still pretty much fielded a full strength team yesterday. So I don't know whether he's thinking that Norwich at home is an easier game than Leeds' B team and might bring the changes on Wednesday. But, you know, this is the kind of times that we live in. Let's talk a little bit about some of the FA Cup bits and bobs from the weekend before then we can completely switch into football FPL mode.
What did you watch?
My game.
Talk to me about it.
And highlights. Game and highlights.
I've seen nothing more than the 5 minutes of West Ham. So talk to me about it. What did you say?
Dominated the game. Very unfortunate for Leeds to obviously have to field so many B team players, youth team players, and so on. But I looked at the end of the match and I felt like, hang on a second, we've dominated this so much. I've never seen Leeds so incapable of pressing and getting the ball back and harrying. We had time at the back to knock the ball around me, time at the back to go sideways to sideways. And yet they had more possession and completed more passes than we did. And it didn't feel like that in any way in the game whatsoever. We could have easily scored 3 or 4, but obviously Leeds did have a couple of chances at the other end. Squeaky bum time at the end, but yeah, comfortable.
I mean, it looked like had a few chances, particularly Daniel James had a few chances.
Yeah, he did. I never felt like he was going to score.
No, he doesn't give you, and I know he's like his underlying
that confidence. Yeah,
his underlying metrics are actually quite interesting at the moment. Daniel James,
his body language wasn't there. It was. I tell you what, I felt for the first time, and I'm a very pessimistic West Ham fan, conditioned from years of watching my team not be very good. And I was like, we're turning into a team here. We're turning into a very good team here, where you can take out one piece and replace it with another. Vlasic came in and put in a man of the match performance. Comfortable, good. Squeaky at the bum time at the end, but comfortable. I thought it was comfortable. And so it should have been against Leeds' B team.
David Moyes is absolutely desperate to win a trophy. He had near misses with Everton and stuff. And he really does treat the cups quite seriously. So I think we can see that as a pattern emerging. But did you make the draw very briefly?
So did you see FPL Irons? Luke put out a tweet just after we'd won the game. I don't know if you saw it, James.
No.
He said that West Ham's last 4 cup draws have been Man City, Man United, Tottenham, Leeds. Can we please have Kidderminster Harriers?
Oh, well, please bookmark that tweet, because who knows, that might come back and bite.
Yeah.
Really interestingly, you played Kidderminster in the 5th round of the Cup in the, I want to say 94 or 95, I think 94, and you went there and won 1-0. It's very ironic for Kidderminster that they've drawn yourselves again. I reckon that might end up being a Friday night, actually. Let's hope it's windy and the shit, and the sort of game that'll put you off. From an FPL perspective, obviously, look, whatever happens Wednesday night, if like Antonio's rested, I don't think he will be, by the way.
No way.
Then that happens. We
came off for like 80 something, whatever, for you. Last minute.
But what would be your thinking for Sunday? With obviously you play Leeds again with Antonio and Bowen, a single game week fixture. You who have you got?
Antonio, Bowen, and Ben Johnson.
So you've got 3. I mean, do you play them all, or?
Ben Johnson's on the bench at the moment because I've got double players that I want to play ahead of him. But the other 2 will play.
I take it you're not intending to use free hit chip.
No. At the moment, I'm not. And the thing that is likely to sway me to want to use the free hit chip, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is if I don't think that there's going to be another good week to use it. This is game week 22 we're going into now, right? And there's 38 game weeks. There's 16 game weeks left. I've got 5 chips, wildcard, bench boost, 2 free hits, and a triple captain to use. So 1 in 3 game weeks between now and the end of the season, I'm going to be using a chip all of a sudden, right? So it's almost as if the game weeks are catching up with the number of chips that I've got to use. So I'm still open to using the free hit. If I don't think that there's particularly going to be a better week to do it, I might just do it anyway, because I will find a way to get myself extra 5 fixtures.
It sounds like boredom.
It's like, well, when else am I going to use them? Because that could be a problem for certain managers. It's a similar mindset and mentality and problem that you get in Sky Fantasy Football, where you hold back your transfers and suddenly you've got loads to use. I've got to use these chips sometimes. 16 weeks to go. I'm at 17 weeks to include this one. I may do it, but the chances are particularly slim.
We'll look at some potential solutions for that. And I'm at the moment not using the chip either, but I'm very open-minded to it, because shit can happen over the next 72 hours or so that completely changes the situation. I mean, a lot of people obviously impacted by Heung-min Son's injury. That's
true. Well, you asked me about my game yesterday, and whilst I was watching it, probably about half an hour in, 35 minutes in, I thought, do you know what? Let me have a quick butchers at what's going on in the rest of the competition, and ended up laughing out loud because I saw you guys were losing to Morecambe.
Liverpool were losing at that stage as well, although won very comfortably against Shrewsbury in the end.
Indeed. And when we got to the end, in the final 10 minutes, it was like this could actually be completely reversed, because Leeds get an equaliser here and we're the ones with egg on our face, having thrown away a dominant performance, and Spurs actually have ended up winning comfortably in the end, 3-1. So it could easily turn in cup competitions, which is why the cup competition is so great. You know, you could be doing so well, and in an instant, it's not like it's your whole tournament is gone. So very interesting. But despite the fact that you ended up winning comfortably 3-1, people are not happy.
People
are not happy. People are not happy. What happened?
Like honestly, so 25 minutes to go, I'm sitting there and I thought, we ain't scoring here. The only thing I was thinking was, he's obviously got the cavalry on the bench in Lucas and Kane, who he could bring on, and they might come on and do bits. And the pair of them come on, and the level just went up massively. Kane looked as sharp, admittedly it's Morecambe, right? Kane looked sharper than he looked for like about 12 months. And Lucas was probably man of the match. And he played like 20 minutes.
Right.
It just made such a difference to the game. And I know a few will have Lucas in mind now for particularly free hitters. And I think Lucas is a reasonable one for free hitters at 6.5. I don't know how Tottenham are going to set up against Arsenal particularly, because yesterday was a 5-3-2 and it felt like, with Sonny obviously now injured, we think it's probably going to be 2 to 3 weeks or so. There's a suspicion it could be as long as 5 weeks. He is definitely not playing in this double. If you're lingering hope, Son might play at Leicester in the second game. No. That's not it's not happening.
He's not back before February, is what they were saying. So that would be some miracle recovery.
He's not going to play at Chelsea on the 23rd in the league either, right? So I think February's being mentioned because of the kind of planned gap with the internationals and stuff. And there's hope that he might be available for, I think, Southampton's Tottenham's game in game week 24. Possibly even the Brighton game in the fourth round of cup on the weekend before. But he played with Ali and Brian Hill as a front two. Played a midfield three of Lo Celso and Ndombele and Harry Winks. He's obviously rotated the team, but listen, this team should be well strong enough to go and
Morecambe.
He changed it. He changed it in the second half, and he put Lo Celso higher and made it a front three. And he really bizarrely switched wing backs and put Doherty to left wing back and Ryan Sessegnon to right wing back. Please, somebody take Matt Doherty off me. It's like eating at me. I want to start eating my whole hands when I watch him on a football. It's like paralyzing watching him. And Ndombele obviously sulked off the pitch. To clarify one thing, because it's been heavily reported, obviously the board goes up. Tottenham made 3 substitutions. Conte is such a clever bastard that even like Ndombele's going to trudge off. Let's at least put his number up first, right? So Ndombele's the first of the 3 substitutions, and he's the last to get off the pitch, mate.
Wow,
it's incredible. He just kind of stood there, took some taping off his wrist. We're losing 1-0 at the time.
Okay. So then you want your player off straight away.
You've got to run.
If you were winning,
you've got to. Yeah, of course. Like whatever.
If you're winning, take your time.
We're losing, which we're at home to a League One team who are in the bottom 4 of League One, right? In danger of relegation, is worth saying. He's trudging off the pitch at like pigeon step pace, and obviously it's like, come on, and he doesn't react to it, and he just goes on sulking, he's looking around. Then obviously the booing started, and to be honest, he needed to be told. Right, the fans have run out of patience with him completely. So Conte kind of threw him a kind of something at the end of the game to say like, no, you're still a part of it. I've been in that position. There's no way Antonio Conte's ever walked off a football pitch like that when he's been losing. But you'd think Tottenham career's over. I think what Tottenham will probably do against Chelsea is probably play a front 3 of Lucas, Kane and Lo Celso. When I say Chelsea, I mean the second leg in the cup on Wednesday, obviously. I think that's probably what will happen. If it goes well, then that might be the front 3 against Arsenal as well. Lo Celso gives a little bit of creativity, a little bit of elegance on the ball. He's quite a frustrating player. He does work hard as well. So I think he's probably the one that would get the nod at the moment, rather than Dele Alli or Bergwijn, or Brian Hill was not good yesterday. He's too lightweight at the moment, unfortunately. So I think that's the most likely. It could be a front 2 of just Kane and Lucas. So I think, look, if you want to punt sign on a free hit, Lucas. If you want to go and buy Tottenham, it's buy Kane or buy a defensive one. And the defensive one still be Reguilon. Apparently he's fine. They just wanted to rest him yesterday. They know he's probably going to have to play Wednesday, Sunday, and then next Wednesday again. So they've just given him a break. Should be okay. Similar with Eric Dyer. I just note that Ben Davies obviously played again yesterday. And he's the one over this period who's not really had a rest. But unless Christian Romero becomes available over the next 10 days, like impossible to see a rest, particularly for Ben Davies either. But if Romero's available, he might leave Davies out for a game. I think possibly the Leicester game, and play like Sanchez, left-sided centre-back. That's it on Spurs, I think. We'll talk about Newcastle a little bit.
Yeah, let's do just one quick thing that I'm going to chuck out on West Ham. As you mentioned, like Lucas Moura is an interesting option. Lanzini had a great game again yesterday, and I actually think he's cementing himself in that spot. If I didn't own Bowen or Antonio or whatever, like, you know, the old eyes emoji I've definitely got 2 eyes on him at his price. At
the moment, it's gone, isn't it? You're not buying that player this week with a single.
Not this week with a single game week. I think as a longer term hold. Do you remember when Jesse Lingard broke into our team and he obviously hit the ground running, and people are like, is this just a flash in the pan, or is there underlying performance that justifies it? And I said at the time, I thought there was the underlying performance. I think the same with Manu now, that he's going to cement himself and is a real consideration for, should be, once we get out of this kind of.
The thing is, and we've spoken about this previously with you, home fixtures for the rest of the season are really good.
So good.
So that 5.8, yeah, of course, absolutely.
Real, my Conor Gallagher, Lanzini's where I would want to go with him at the moment.
He might be one to consider where, obviously, it's a little bit dependent on what happens with Egypt. But obviously, Salah's intended to be back for game week 24 against Leicester. It might be one where people need to find a bit of money with Salah and they downgrade from an 8 million midfielder down to sort of Lanzini to help fund that. Because West Ham obviously have Watford at home that week, so it's a good kind of entry point as well, rather than this week with a single, then Manchester United away. We'll get more.
I'm not fearful of United away. I might eat my words, but I'm not fearful of United away.
There's no reason to be fearful about Manchester United, but same thing. You're probably not buying Lanzini this week. You're probably not buying Lanzini next week. It might be a facilitator the week after, possibly. But then there'll be other people sitting there with free West Ham, like myself, who
can't get there.
And that's just not moving at the moment, obviously.
Newcastle, Cambridge.
I mean, the goalies had a worldie. It's worth saying, right?
Yeah.
Newcastle filled the
ground.
That's
the cup, right?
This is it. Mad shit just happens in this competition. And there's always something that you absolutely don't expect. And I think if you'd have looked at the third round ties, when you saw the Newcastle team, it's a full hour 6 actually, you'd have gone, no problem today. Cambridge 16th in League One, not pulling up any trees particularly. But something mad always happens. And that's what I'm looking at when I'm watching Tottenham yesterday. As shit as we were, I'm looking at this team going, Morecambe are dying for this, right? You never know. I must have looked at the clock more times yesterday than I would do in a normal game. It's like, oh my God, that wasn't 5 minutes. I'm sure that was only a minute's gone. It felt like that, obviously. So obviously Newcastle bought in trips. Great signing from. And they're obviously being strongly linked with centre-backs particularly. And I noticed there's been some interest apparently reported in Chris Wood, which is probably worth coming back to because Burnley are possibly of interest for this upcoming game week. I think Newcastle might be looking at Tarkowski from Burnley as well. I don't know if they've identified it and gone, there's 4 teams at the bottom of this table, 3 of them are going down. If we nick a couple of the best ones from Burnley, we'll right. he's going to knock off some of the competition a little bit as well.
I heard we've placed an official bid for Tarkowski.
Okay.
8.5 million.
8.5 million.
Is that contract in 6 months, mate?
It doesn't matter. Burnley let him go for free in that situation, mate. What's the value on Burnley to let that go and get relegated? Whereas if he stays and they stay up, he's worth how much to them?
Yeah, I don't know, but then they could end up getting relegated anyway, and that 8.5 million come in handy in the Championship. I don't know. I think he's like likely to move though.
If Newcastle are interested, they might just outbid that 8.5. What do you think?
Well, I heard that Luca Dean is now heading towards Villa.
That's correct. Yeah,
and
looks that way.
So they didn't obviously throw money at Luca Dean in this situation, which they could have outbid us, Chelsea, Villa, everyone. So I'm not sure how crazy they will be.
But I think that was the case of Luca Dean. Supposedly, the people in the know say Luca Dean had no interest in going to Newcastle. So I think they might have thrown the money at it.
Alain Saint-Maximin and Fabrizio Romano's Twitter.
Oh yeah, they've been having bands, haven't they? Like
bands is the right word. Yeah. So Tarkowski to Newcastle. I mean, they need help. They need players.
They're definitely getting centre backs in. They're definitely getting centre backs in. You would think Callum Wilson's probably 6 to 8 weeks or so. They reckon they probably need a forward now as well. I mean, Newcastle need a complete overhaul of the team. It's a case of prioritising. It looks like Eddie Howe's prioritised and gone, look, defensively. Trips is one that's not of interest now for FPL. 5 million, even with some good fixtures, but it might be one further down the line. I do note, however, by the way, just looking at Newcastle's end of season. They've got Liverpool at home in 35, Man City away in 36. They're probably going to want to be ahead of the pack by the time that comes around. They do have good fixtures. I don't think you're not paying 5 million for a Newcastle defender at the moment.
No chance. No chance.
But it might quickly be one you go, oh, actually, they're going to start needing to win games of football. We know Tripp's delivery is exceptional from wide areas and that. So one certainly to keep in mind. Arsenal, that was fun, wasn't it? Dan FPL Chancellor backed me up on this yesterday. I had an Arsenal fan sitting next to me at the Tottenham game yesterday.
Okay.
No one I know. But there was a group behind us of the most annoying fucking people I've ever met in my life. Actually, I never met them because I did not want to have a conversation.
Are they always behind you or just
this is rogue people, isn't it? Right. Anyway, they've got this guy a seat and he's next to me. And he keeps turning around to his mates all game long going, if you want to watch a proper team, ITV, 10 past 5. I presume he was talking about Forest because he can't have been talking about Arsenal, mate. Wow. That's twice they've lost at the City Ground in the last 4 years. I mean, it's the only team they've lost to in the third round in the last 25 years or something. It's Forest, and it's happened twice. They were pathetic, Arsenal. They didn't have a shot on target, mate.
Yeah, it's horrible this time of year. You say, obviously, if Arsenal go out to Liverpool, December, January is the graveyard for a lot of people's seasons. Like for you guys, you're going to go out against had you lost, suddenly what are you playing for? Literally the rest of the season, all you've got left to play for is 4th place, which is an achievement.
The CAS appeal, the Court Arbitration of Sport Rents appeal.
But
maybe
really
we don't even know if that's happening.
Yeah, it can be so brutal this time of year. Now Arsenal are playing for 4th.
Well, they're still in the League Cup semi, aren't they? And to be honest, I would imagine they'll probably beat Liverpool, actually.
Yeah.
The 2 legs. Because Liverpool will rotate massively, won't they?
Yeah. I wouldn't say it's a given.
No, it's not a given. And to be honest, I'd make Arsenal favourites for 4th, in spite of what I watched yesterday. What Forest did, this is possibly an interesting pointer for Sunday's North London derby. They played a back 3, which you normally do, Forest. Their forwards played as split forwards, and they just let the centre-backs have the ball, basically. Now, I don't know if Tottenham can play that with Kane as kind of split forwards like him and Lucas. Certainly would be great for Lucas. I'm not sure it'd be so great for Kane, but it might be what Tottenham try and do tactically to Arsenal is similar, copycat it, because Tottenham play a similar system to Forest and say, fine, centre-backs have the ball. We're going to stop you playing in front of that and just shut the game down. If Tottenham can show as much effort as Forest did yesterday, they'll have a good chance of winning. There was some great performances at Forest. I'll tell you what, Brennan Johnson at Forest is a player to keep an eye out for. And Jed Spence, who's actually on loan from Middlesbrough, right wing back, was really good as well. They've got some good players for us. I wouldn't be surprised they make a late promotion push towards the playoffs, actually. Anything else you want to cover from the cup games?
Obviously, Kidderminster did well to be non-league and beat Reading.
It's irrelevant to this show, unfortunately. They'll beat West Ham in round 4. We all know that.
Well,
I'll tell you one that keeps getting mentioned.
I would. One thing I'm quite interested in is when we get to Agborough, I think we'll play a fairly full-strength team.
Yeah, so do I.
Which then I think we will win. We should be winning. But
as
I think
I said as well, I think,
and I like that. I
think that might end up being on a Friday night. Just looking at the midweek fixtures afterwards, you play Watford on the Tuesday. So that's part why I could see the game. It's not going to be a Sunday, obviously. It's either going to be a Friday, Saturday. So I could see that it's kind of the tired around, isn't it? Kidderminster, West Ham. So I could see it possibly being the Friday night game, actually. And in which case, it's a Friday to Tuesday. Yeah, after a long break, why wouldn't he pick a strong team? It's ironic that actually. I mentioned Man City briefly because there was so much made of them and their COVID cases last week, and then the team dropped and everyone went, oh my god, he's playing like Cancelo and Diaz and all. There was quite a strong team at Swindon. What's going on? And the point I made to people was they haven't played for 6 days, they haven't got another game for another 8 days. Why wouldn't City pick a relatively strong team? It's actually more balanced for teams to pick stronger teams in the 3rd and 4th rounds than it is later on in the season, which is a little bit bizarre. It's just the way, take Tottenham Brighton in the next round, because Brighton's game with Chelsea in game week 24 is postponed because of the Club World Cup. Brighton have a full week off afterwards, unlike any other team. So Brighton, you would think, would have to pick a full strength team at Tottenham just to kind of keep up momentum and stuff like that. The only one I really wanted to mention from cup perspective was, we'll talk about Leicester in a second, was Palace, because I see a lot of people mention about Elise again. And repeat what I said last week in terms of time is now for him, but it's not fantasy time. You're not buying him ahead of single game week fixture at way to Brighton, and then the following week, single game week fixture at home to Liverpool. You're not buying him. Now, game week 24, we mentioned about Lanzini being a facilitator. Well, Lisa's basically the same price.
Yeah.
So Elise goes into Norwich away in game week 24. And I think obviously Ayew will be back from AFCON by then, but this kid's too talented. He's got a chance to claim that first team spot. Yes, Ayew might still play in some of the more difficult games, but I think Elise game week 24, put a ring around it, you might be coming back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Leicester beat Watford. Did you see obviously the floodlight failure?
Yeah, 60 minutes in, suddenly, there's no lights on.
Did you see the tweet from Leicester afterwards about we're back underway at Filbert Way? They clearly didn't want to say the lights are back on at the King Power.
King Power, yeah. I mean, there was plenty of jokes about putting shillings in the meter, but clearly not King Power at all.
Oh my goodness. If that game had been postponed, what impact that would have had, obviously, on game week 22. We highlighted last week, we said, look, if something happens to Leicester Watford at the weekend, game week 22 is going to look completely different. Burnley Watford would probably be off. Leicester and Tottenham probably be off again. And obviously, as we said, Everton-Leicester is off on Tuesday, which has caused a lot of anger. And I think the Premier League after this weekend needs to have a real long look back at themselves. So on December the 23rd, they released a statement and it's really long. It's easy to find about how to decide whether games are getting postponed or not. We've kind of heard about this 13 rule, 13 plus rule, basically, as long as it includes goalkeepers. The problem is the terminology in that statement says about available players. So it says basically if there's a contributing factor of COVID and injuries that enables clubs to be down to 13 plus players, games can get postponed. I do not blame Leicester City for asking for the postponement. They've got 8 available players at the moment in terms of first team qualified, but we've all seen they've just beat a fellow Premier League team 4-1 at the weekend with what they've got available. So it's this that makes people think, hang on, this isn't right. Now, the FA rules very different to the Premier League rules. And isn't it remarkable? We suggested about the problems this weekend, possibly for lower league teams, in terms of if they had a COVID outbreak, you don't have the depth of squad. But one of the things I said on my stream Friday is the only way a Premier League team is going to have a game postponed this weekend is if there's a real problem at a lower league opposition club. Because the FA ain't going to call off the games. We knew that from last year when Villa got forced to play their kids against Liverpool, right? So the Premier League has to look at that and go, hang on, there's 31 ties played in the FA Cup of the weekend. There's another one tonight, which is going to go ahead, United and Villa. Why is it that those games can all go ahead and yet you're calling off Premier League games every week at the moment? Now, Leicester, at the moment, I don't even know their COVID situation. Now, if you look at the amount of absentees they've got, it's obviously really bad, right? They do genuinely have like 15, 16 players out. It's bad. But 4 of them are at AFCON. Everybody knows that this tournament's going on. You cannot be including them players in a reason for a game to get postponed. Again, I'm not blaming Leicester. Leicester are quite within their right to ask for the postponement. It's the Premier League's rules that need amending to move it back to X number of COVID cases reduces you to this. If you have injuries, etc., tough shit.
Yeah, agreed.
Leicester have been one of the best clubs in this country about in terms of bringing youngsters into their team over the last few years. Think Luke Thomas, think Dewsbury Hall now, etc.
Yep.
So there's no reason they can't bring other kids into the team. Now, obviously, they've got a double coming up, which again, please don't make early transfers. It's fairly obvious, but please don't make early transfers. I do feel sorry for everybody that bought Heung-min Son really early last week, but I also don't at the same time as well. He did look like a safe one, but we can still have injuries, etc. A lot of the players look like they'll be back for the Burnley game next weekend. Daka was really close to playing at the weekend. Certainly, Brendan Rodgers confirmed that Kagla Syunshu would be back for Burnley. Dewsbury Hall, I think, will be back as well. Now, if you put those 3 back in, they're actually still technically under the amount permitted. Also factor in, however, what I've said many times in terms of discussing strategy. Leicester City, from a scheduling position, are now in big trouble.
If they get through in Europe.
Correct. But in terms of scheduling the games, like they've now got Everton away. People saying, when's Everton away getting rearranged? Well, chances are probably not anytime soon, unless it goes into game week 23. And I'll come back onto that in a minute. They've also got Norwich at home. And in game week 27, bearing in mind what I watched at Stamford Bridge last Wednesday, they're highly likely to have their fixture against, guess what? Chelsea postponed because of the Carabao Cup. And because it's Chelsea as well and their involvement, where's that going? So suddenly you're down to game weeks 33, 36, and 37 being, if Leicester progress in Europe and the FA Cup, the only weeks available to schedule these games. Now, if they progress in the FA Cup beyond the quarterfinals, there is no time. So while Leicester have been moaning now about all the amount of games in their schedule, should they do very well in the Cups, let's just say they did make, hypothetically, the FA Cup final and Europa Conference League final, I am telling you it is a certainty that they will, at certain points this season, have to play twice in 3 days. Absolute certainty. There is not enough dates in the schedule. It is worse for them than anybody.
I mean, if they go out of the Europa League, Conference League, then
it opens up
frees
dates,
up
of
a little
course.
bit more and stuff. Yeah,
of course it does. Now, I hinted there at game week 23. When the game week 22 fixtures were announced, there was a really interesting note in the Athletics article, and it was only a really short article. But the Athletic noted that the Premier League have been given permission to schedule matches during the forthcoming international break.
Yeah.
So after game week 23, Friday the 21st to Sunday the 23rd, we have a big gap until the FA Cup fourth round 2 weekends later. There is, in theory, 2 midweeks and a weekend where fixtures could suddenly drop in. And of course, if anything dropped into FA Cup fourth round weekend, and there is a possibility that one of 2 games could drop into that weekend, a Premier League game, then it could be that game week 23 lasts for over 2 weeks. It is possible.
For a big question, which is probably burning on everyone's mind, will we know about these fixtures before the game week 23 deadline? Do you feel that we will?
In terms of a schedulement for the FA Cup fourth round weekend, I'm not sure. And it basically, let me just break that down really simply. If Aston Villa win at Manchester United tonight, which is possible, there will be no Premier League game scheduled on FA Cup fourth round weekend. There is nothing physically that can go there. But if Aston Villa lose, they've got 2 fixtures that could be scheduled on that weekend. One is the rearranged game against Burnley.
Mm-hmm.
And the other would be the trip to Leeds United, because those 2 teams are also obviously out of the cup. Now, it would make complete common sense, and I'm not saying that the Premier League has any, to schedule one of Aston Villa's games on that weekend. I think for the Burnley fans, who would have obviously had the trip to Villa Park called off very late, and certainly probably would have already been in Birmingham when it was called off, it would make complete sense for Aston Villa to play Burnley at 3 p.m. on Saturday the 5th, the right kickoff time for the football supporters. It's not a television game anyway, and just do it rather than them playing on a midweek later in the season. If you can put a game on a weekend, put it on a bloody weekend, right?
I agree with you. Yeah.
I think that's more likely than Villa playing at Leeds, purely because obviously Amazon hold the rights to that Leeds Aston Villa fixture, and Amazon are not going to let that go because they only get the 2 blocks of fixtures all season. They're obviously going to keep that game. However, I wouldn't be that surprised if we had a situation where Amazon went, actually, give us a weekend game. And I could see it being put at like 8 o'clock on a Saturday night or something.
Not great for the travelling fans.
TV will rule in that case, won't it? If Amazon turn around to the Premier League and go, hang on, we've got this game, you've got a gap, put it at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night or something, I could see that. I could see that. There's even a possibility it could be played, say, on the Thursday the 2nd, right? If they're now saying they could schedule fixtures in earlier, Amazon go, well, we'll have it on Thursday the 2nd. Now, there is also a thought process because of this statement that was on the Athletics article that these 3 Amazon fixtures, Arsenal, Wolves, Leeds, Villa, and Everton, Newcastle, might suddenly drop into the midweek after game week 23.
So part of game week 23, but the midweek after what's officially scheduled.
It's not to say that other games such as Watford versus Crystal Palace can't drop in there. What I'm saying is the priority is these TV games, right? I had a source at BT told me that BT are anticipating that Amazon can show their games at the same time as Champions League nights. Now, that doesn't seem to make sense for either BT or Amazon to me, but BT are prepared for that possibility to happen. So all I'm saying is game week 23 might really suddenly drop. And in theory, we could have a treble game week for Aston Villa.
Right.
Because if those Amazon fixtures get dropped on the midweek after game week 23, Villa then have double game week, Everton away, Leeds away. If the Burnley fixture is then played on the weekend of FA Cup 4th round and they don't bring the deadline for 24 forward, you're looking at treble game week of Aston Villa, Everton away, Leeds away, and Burnley at home. So when you're selling players this week, my advice would be don't sell players from those 6 teams who've got the potential Amazon fixture. Arsenal, Wolves, Leeds, Villa, Everton, Newcastle. Be very conscious of selling players from those 6 teams because like that, they could have a double. I think in the case of the midweek fixtures, if that was to happen after the weekend of 23, we would know before the deadline. In terms of that FA Cup 4th round weekend, I'm not convinced that we would. In that case, that they then bring the deadline forward to the weekend. They might do. So it could be that Villa have double-double. And if Villa win tonight, forget everything I've just said. Like if you're listening on Tuesday, going, fucking hell, James, Villa won 3-0 at Old Trafford. Yeah, I'm recording a bit earlier. We should timestamp this, Suj. It's about 11 o'clock on Monday morning.
Give or take, it is. Any other thoughts around fixtures? Because I personally am taking it as it comes. I was going to say, I'm not, if I was to say I'm not that bothered, that makes it sound like I don't care about FPL because a lot of people have taken this chaos. It's not their teams left, right, and centre, and they've taken a kicking and have disengaged from the game. I think overall, I've been ridiculously lucky in the last 4 weeks with certain things that have fallen and affected other managers. I haven't been affected as badly. For example, I have 0 players in Everton-Leicester. On wildcard, Reece James was so high on the list of players that I wanted to get in, but I decided to stick with Rudiger. So I dodged that bullet potentially as well. I've had a few odd issues with Cole Walker suddenly going AWOL and what have you. But generally, I do feel like I've been supremely lucky through this period and not been overly affected by some of the major problems that people have had. So touch wood, it carries on. But I'm not disengaged with the game, but I'm not bothered about when these fixtures come and go. I'll just adjust, leaving it right to the end, making my kind of decisions in the final hour before deadline to make sure that there's no last minute news that can affect me and rolling with the punches. As it stands right now, for example, Eric Dyer's flagged. He had COVID, but I reckon he'll be all right by the time
the
game comes around.
He should be.
Trent flagged because he's got COVID.
That's a ridiculous flag. He's even said like he'll probably play Thursday. Stupid,
exactly.
Yeah.
Sonny, which we know is a genuine flag, he's not coming back. I don't know why they don't go from orange to red in his case on the official game, to be honest with you. Dennis now flagged. But again, I don't know how serious his knock is or isn't because he's on yellow flag at the moment. So I've got 4 players.
I think he was left out precautionary.
Yeah. So again, 3 of those could be fine all of a sudden, and I don't have any of the issues that I do think I have. I'm just rolling with it and not over strategizing. My only thing is this week, is it worth playing the free hit? Because there's not going to be a better opportunity further down the line. Now, we've got blanks in 30 and 36, perhaps, on the way?
No, 36 would be a big double.
36 would be a double. Blank will be 30.
Yeah. We'll have a look at some of them in a sec. I want to ask you first, Suj, how many doublers have you got at the moment with the 8 teams we've got? And obviously to confirm those doublers in game week 32 are Burnley, Watford, Brighton, Chelsea, Leicester, Tottenham, Brentford, Manchester United.
I have David De Gea, and this is not including Backman, who sits on the bench because he's behind De Gea. So
we've got the same too, haven't we? We've not fallen well on this one.
Yeah, so De Gea, Eric Dyer, Rudiger, Dennis, Ronaldo. So 5.
Oh, I think you're very strong there, mate.
And Sonny, who I can move on to pretty much anyone. My non-doublers, West Ham at home to Leeds, is Bowen and Antonio. Liverpool at home to Brentford is Trent and Jota and Cancelo.
Yeah.
And even if I didn't play Cancelo against Chelsea, Ben Johnson steps in again.
That is, I mean, there's obviously you mentioned a few of them on flags, but I mean, that's really strong in comparison to what I'm about to say. Your captain, if you didn't do anything, would be?
or Ronaldo.
Yeah, I think would have to.
And that's through gritted teeth because I don't want to captain him.
No, I get that. I think the outstanding captaincy candidates are probably Ronaldo and Harry Kane, just purely because of the capability of the two players and the fact that they have a double game week. Seems fairly obvious. There aren't great midfield double options, not from a captaincy. So I think a lot of us are looking at Leicester, like Maddison, Barnes, Lookman. It's worth saying, obviously, Lookman basically played through the middle against Watford, but if Daka's back, that might not last. So I wouldn't go into too much detail on that. That's the main disappointment, actually, for me, than the Everton-Leicester being postponed. It's not me losing Calvert-Lewin. It's the fact that I can't watch Leicester before the weekend. is more the disappointment, and see what they might have done in a Premier League game. You can't use the Watford Cup game as a reference. I think, by the way, Ronaldo over Kane. I just think Ronaldo's ceiling will be a little bit higher, but again, he might get dropped against Villa tonight, and that might put the shitter up everyone. But I'd think of that even more. Like if he did get a rest tonight against Villa, I'd think even more. He's going to play the two games in the double, probably, isn't he? And Villa away, Brentford away, they're not easy games. But I think United probably score more goals than Tottenham.
Yeah. In
game week 22 would be my instinct. Although I don't think either will score particularly highly. Myself, doublers, right? I got the same as you. Batman, David De Gea. I got Dalot, which is a waste of space unless Aaron Wan-Bissaka wants to pull a hamstring tonight. I don't wish that on him, but it would probably be quite handy. I've got Josh King. I've got Sonny. Sonny's obviously not available. Yeah. At the moment, I have the captaincy bust on David De Gea. And I don't think it's impossible that he might be my captain this week, as ridiculous as that sounds. Because if you take my front three, Antonio leads at home, Calvert-Lewin away to Norwich, and Josh King, the Watford double, I really don't want to sell any of them three players.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to. I don't want to sell any forward playing against Norwich. It was the same with like Lacazette the other week and stuff. I've refused to sell him now. So it would only be for me if something happened to Antonio, I've got the money in the bank and I'd go and buy Ronaldo. Fairly straightforward and obvious. But otherwise, he's staying. When I look at the midfield options in terms of the doublers, we bringing Bruno into the conversation.
Yes, for people that want to spend.
Well, I've got so much excess money at the moment that I might just go, fine, I'll go Son to Bruno Fernandes for the two games. I know his capability, and then I can move that on to Salah in a couple of weeks. But I'm not sure I'd stick the arm back. I'm not sure I'd captain Bruno Fernandes over David De Gea. I'd look at De Gea and go, if they concede once in both the games, I bet he still gets 6-7 points. With him, with a clean sheet, the amount of saves he's having to make in games, I mean, he was on for like a 9-pointer against Wolves. If you get that in either game, that'll do. Yeah, that'll absolutely do from a captaincy perspective. Do I want to captain a single game week player when there's doublers like Trent, Jota and stuff? Not convinced to really do, but I honestly, I think there are people that will captain those two this week, and I don't hate it. So midfielders, if I get Maddison, my captain him? No. Am I captain Lucas Moura if I go that way? No. The midfield and defensive option in terms of from captaincy this game week, not great. Obviously, Cancelo and Trent have singles. I may genuinely end up going this week, Suj, Son to something like Maddison, getting a defensive body in for Diop or Dalot.
Yeah.
And captain David De Gea and just going sod it. That'll do. Because I just think this double game week is awful. I can't see it's worthwhile to chip at the moment. Now, if I get Antonio and Bowen get injured on Wednesday night, for example, then I'm going to look at this very differently. But say they both get injured for 3 weeks, I'm going to have the same problem in game week 23. So at that point, I might as well go sod it. I'll take a -8. I'll get Ronaldo in. I'll get Maddison in. I'll get another midfielder in or something and do it that way instead. So I can't see me using it at the moment unless I walk into something really bad. Like Liverpool, West Ham's both postponed, for example, for whatever reason. Then I might look at it and go, oh, yeah, shit. I should use it. Otherwise, I think I probably won't. Suj, you want to know about these different prospects for free hit, right?
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. Just to give you my thought process at the moment, mate.
Go for it.
So I've got Billy Gilmore, third sub, waste of space, flagged, and garbage. And I also have 2.6 million in the bank, which gets me to 6.9, which gets me Maddison, Barnes, Lookman, Lucas Moura, basically anyone from that kind of mid-tier that I want. So rather than sell Sonny this week, I'll bench him and buy insert midfielder here. More, it might be one of the Leicester boys or Lucas Moura. And then further down the line, downgrade Ronaldo to give me the money to turn Sonny back to Salah. But not sell Sonny just yet because I don't need to, whereas Billy Gilmore's doing nothing for me right now. And when I sell Ronaldo, I'll come down particularly cheap. I might even go to Breuer to get back, and then I've got money to play with elsewhere because Dennis and Antonio is fine for the front two for me. Yeah. It might be a hokey cokey. Gilmore too. And then, I mean, it's a real stab in the dark. Lookman, Barnes, Maddison, Lucas Moura, take your pick, really.
So free hit possibilities, there are loads. There's obviously in the first instance, there's the double game weeks that we can't see, where I don't know, suddenly you'll have two fixtures thrown into game week 26 on Champions League nights, for example, and it might be they last really nice. I want to credit FPL Harry, formerly FPL Tips, who I noticed was talking about free hit game week 27. And I really like this. Now, one, we could have doubles fall into game week 27. That midweek afterwards, I can tell you, if you bear with me a second, Suj, in game week 27, is the fifth round of the cup afterwards. So it's probably unlikely, but we could have, let's just say Wolves did unlikely lose to Norwich in the fourth round of the cup. Then in theory, I guess Arsenal Wolves could play that night an FA Cup fifth round. That's a bad example because of the Amazon. It probably really, really unlikely to be that, for example. But perhaps Wolves could play Watford instead, for example. Their double might suddenly be in that period. But obviously, it's the Carabao Cup final. Now, we know Liverpool and Arsenal aren't going to... Obviously, that wouldn't be a double for Arsenal anyway, because they haven't got a fixture. We know Arsenal against Liverpool is already postponed in 27. We can probably conclude at this stage, I can't see Tottenham beating Chelsea by a couple of goals, that Leicester and Chelsea on Sunday the 27th at Stamford Bridge is also probably going to be postponed. So if you're sitting there in a position at the moment, I'm sure somebody listening is sitting there at the moment with Trent, Jota, I don't know, Tierney, Martinelli, and let's just say even them four. And by then you're going to have Salah added to that as well, fairly for most people. Suddenly you've got 5 players out because of one game. Now, if you've got Chelsea assets as well, you're potentially missing more. Oh, and people are looking to invest in Leicester players as well now. Suddenly you could easily, just from them 2 fixtures, depending on your team setup, kind of end into it with those 4 teams. And you might have 6-7 players from those 2 games. And then I think free hit becomes really viable, actually, for game week 27. So I'd bear that in mind, which is not being spoken about too much, on the off chance that Tottenham did recover it against Chelsea. By the way, they're scheduled to play Leeds in that game week. Game week 30, we know FA Cup quarterfinals, and we're likely to get blanks. By the way, if Aston Villa do lose tonight, Aston Villa against Arsenal will be a confirmed fixture for game week 30. We will already have our first one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit, it's not often that they come up this early. There's always 1 or 2 that drip feed in, but after the next round, hopefully we might see a few more.
The other thing is, and we know this from last year as well, once a couple of teams are out and their opponents are out, you can look at throwing potentially the odd one extra in there. Like Villa Tottenham, it just worked out last year. And I think there'll be that sort of consciousness to potentially add fixtures even maybe to game week 30 this year. But in any case, there's certainly going to be a number of blanks. You look at Liverpool United playing each other and you can think that's highly likely that at least one of them is going to get to the quarterfinal, you would think probably. Game week 33 is a midweek after the FA Cup semi-finals. Now, this is likely to be a mixture of blanks and doubles. Now, in theory, it could just be a completely normal game week where the game's postponed because of the FA Cup semi-finals at the weekend, just get moved literally to the midweek afterwards. That's possible, and it's a normal game week. We know it's not going to be just a normal game week anyway, because some of these postponed fixtures are not going till there. In theory, the 3 Amazon fixtures that I speak about, they could get put in there.
Right.
They could announce that now and go, bang, those 3 fixtures are going into game week that they're not going to. But it might be from a TV scheduling perspective, if they don't want to use this 23 slot, and if they don't want to clash with Champions League nights, then that's where it's going. It's either going 33 or 36, those 3 fixtures. And I think there's a fair chance to say that they could all go together. So 33 is likely to have a good few doubles. It's almost certain there's going to be more doubles than blanks put it that way. Obviously, the quarterfinals postponed from 30 could get brought forward into Champions League nights earlier, but in all cases, that's not always possible. So it could be 33. The other two available weeks are 36 and 37. 36 is completely free. 37 is the Europa League final on the Wednesday nights. It's extremely unlikely that UEFA will let the Premier League schedule fixtures on that particular evening. They can use the Tuesday, Thursday of that midweek. We've seen in the past game week 37 be used where when Chelsea won the title in 2017, they played, I think it was West Brom on the Friday night when they clinched the title. And then they played West Brom on the Monday, and Everton-Watford got moved to a Friday. So Watford and Chelsea had double of Friday and the Monday. You can even have that sort of situation happen later in the season. So there are opportunities. And there's opportunities we can't see. 27 is one I think people should consider. 30 is obvious to cover off the problem. And obviously, if you want to, we always talk about wildcarding set up for the bench boost, right? Let's say you were going to hold it all the way to the end. Wildcard 35, bench boost 36.
Yep.
Let's say you've got a completely different set of doublers possibly in 37. I mean, free hit in 37.
Free hit in the last
Or do it
week.
the other way round. Wildcard in 35, free hit 36, bench boost 37. I think it also enables people to wildcard earlier. So say if you were planning for bench boost 36 and wanted to wildcard in 31 after the blank, for example, free hitting in the other double, 33, allows you to not worry about that, right? You can plan further ahead, target people with good run-ins and potentially the double in 36. I don't like the distancing on that between the wild card and the bench boost. I feel like too much shit can go wrong. But once we get to April, May, it's only really the injuries that can go wrong, and obviously loss of form, those kind of things. COVID shouldn't be a problem by that stage. So there are possibilities, Suj, and I think there are better opportunities. I would look at 22 and say, for me, for a free hit, in terms of gain, I'd want around about 25 points. I think people undervalue this chip massively. People look at it, I've got 8 more points using a free hit. I'd want a minimum 25.
I agree with you. 20 to 25,
I'm looking at it and going, I could sell Trent, Jota, Bowen and Antonio and Calvert-Lewin for people like Kane, Lucas, Maddison, Matt Lowton and Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah.
And the single game week guys could massively outscore those guys with doubles. So I'd want to be in a more secure place. If you're dead ending into shit in game week 30, you know you're getting that big gain from the chip and you get all your players back in 31. I think there'll be better opportunities, Suj. And I've actually think people should consider 27 as possible coverage as well. Most people are going to have free Liverpool, right? They're not going to play in 27. And it's highly likely, talking about treble captaincy, I say highly likely. A lot of people have identified it. Liverpool are scheduled to play Norwich in 26. They have the midweek available afterwards. It could be double game week of Norwich Leeds. You're probably going to treble captain Salah, or you'll need to because it'll be over 200% effective ownership unless you want to lose on him. And therefore, you're going to have 3 Liverpool players. Then they're going to blank straight afterwards. So free hit 27 might solve a lot of problems for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think what you've summarized there, I mean, the biggest thing in my decision-making process, because I'm so not likely to do it, is just it's not even necessarily what the gains are in the future, but ultimately, I, like you, don't like the doubles this midweek on the way. I just don't see anything.
Don't even have to going to happen.
Yeah, and I just don't.
What happens if Leicester go to Burnley on Saturday? Let's say they get up to 13 players. What happens if Leicester get 3 or 4 injuries on Saturday? They don't play Tottenham.
No.
And Leicester's going to have a treble game week somewhere, probably. There's gonna be other opportunities. Yep. Even game week 23, say those 3 fixtures do get thrown in there, and say Villa Burnley, and suddenly you've got a treble game week. I mean, who's that fussed? I realise Stephen Gerrard's doing great at Villa. Most people won't have many Villa assets at the moment. But suddenly, you could be looking at going, treble game week? Yeah, I'll have a bit of Matty Cash, Luca Dean if he's signed, and Ollie Watkins. That could come as quickly as game week 23. And I think the treble game week situation is probably really unlikely. And obviously, if Villa win tonight, it doesn't matter anyway. But just like that, we could be in a position before 22 starts. We're looking at it going, oh shit, there's another 7 teams doubling in game week 22, and there's another one who's got a treble. Then which one's better? I don't know, because if you think about them 8 teams in 23 as well, if that happened, Arsenal, Wolves, Villa, Leeds, Burnley, Everton, Newcastle. How much you got from them? Not a lot.
Nothing.
Hmm.
Yeah, at the moment, actually, literally nothing.
So there you go.
Yeah.
So we're not saying that's going to happen, but it's a small possibility.
So let's get into some of the Twitter questions, James, that we've had, because it covers off a lot of the kind of other people's scenarios that could be relevant. And as requested, there are some non-FPL related questions we could have a little bit of fun potentially as well. And some of these might be controversial, James. We might lose a few listeners in answering these. You all right with that?
God. Have we got any listeners?
Let's start with Matt. Matt Lowy. What is the most boring sport?
Oh my God.
This is difficult because I've not actually watched certain sports that I would classify as boring, like American football. I've never sat through it. So for me, it's boring, but I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
I'm in agreement with that.
A lot of people will say, like, cricket. How can you play cricket for 5 days and still get a draw? Well, the thing is, when you go and watch the cricket, it's a piss up. You're going to drink beer and have a day out that more than you are actually to watch the cricket. So it's the game itself isn't the most exciting, but also you don't really watch it to sit and watch for
things
5 days.
like bowls?
Yeah, perhaps, but these are the type of things that when the Olympics comes around, everyone gets super hyped up about and excited about, like curling and stuff like that. Right? What's the context of it? I told you we're going to piss off a few listeners. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to go with American football. Actually, sorry. Listen, you can say whatever you like to me. You cannot get me interested in that game, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Don't mind. So let's at some point we'll have a meetup where we watch an American.
And I know that's going to upset a lot of people, and that's fine. If you love it, that's great. I don't care.
Matt also says, which sport would be the funniest to enforce a mandatory amount of alcohol before players could play? Where do they really need coordination?
What about snooker or pool?
Oh, that'd be anything that
Tennis.
Requires hand-eye coordination.
Darts.
Well, they've got a mandatory amount of vaccination that you have to have before you play tennis. And Novak Djokovic is.
To be fair, go back to like the 80s and stuff. All the darts and snooker players were all pissed then, weren't they? So maybe not. Maybe something gentlemanly. You're like bowls. Bring that back into the conversation again.
Right, bowls. I reckon half the old boys that are playing at 70 are swigging off hip flasks and a bit of whiskey anyway, mate. That could be dangerous. Flying clubs going everywhere. It could be dangerous. Dave Simple Goal says, what's the best book you've ever read?
I'm more of a picture kind of guy. You know that, don't you? Best book I've ever read.
Pick a comic then.
No, it will be something Tottenham related. I'm
going to put.
I'd say the Glory Nights was a massive book. My dad's still got massive. It's like, I don't know, A3 size or something. A detailed all Tottenham's European games from the 60s to the 80s. So I'm going to say that.
I'm going to go with. There's a book called Roots by Alex Haley. It's quite a thick old book. Have you ever heard Kunta Kinte or heard of Kunta Kinte?
I don't know, but your camera and half wobbling.
Oh, sorry. I was probably shaking my desk there. So Roots is a story. Alex Haley is an American guy, and he went back and charted his lineage all the way through slavery and what happened in Africa when they got put on boats and what have you. And he charted his whole family history going back. The thing with it's quite a thick book, and the reason I recommend it and suggest it is because it was so slow to start with. Like I really struggled, kept plowing away, and then the second half just got better and better and better and faster. And it's probably like, you remember the 3-3 draw against you that we had at your place a while ago? No. It was exactly like that. First 80 minutes, why am I even here? In the last 10, Well, I know why I'm here. So Alex Haley Roots, have a look. And there's a TV series on it as well. Should we switch up to a little bit of football, James?
Go on then.
Therapy FPL. Why should you get a game pushed back when you send players to AFCON? Should they not have seen this coming? Well, we talked about this. Do you think...
I don't blame Leicester. I blame the Premier League.
So it leads on to a question that we've had from a few others. Do you think there are double standards in games getting postponed?
No, I think this was the concern. So when they put that statement out on the 23rd of December, it was because there were managers like Dean Smith at Norwich coming out and saying, I don't know what the protocol is. You had managers like David Moyes going, listen, we'll always try and play if we can, and that's full credit to him. And there's other clubs. There were certain games where it was like United got postponed and someone else didn't. I mean, it's fairly obvious. Like if you're closing the training ground because of COVID, there's obviously clearly a problem. In the case of the first one was Tottenham, right? The training ground closed for like 3 days. It's fairly obvious there's a fairly big problem there. But that's what the statement was designed to do, was to give clarity. They had a meeting with all the managers. To be fair, they've all agreed on this together. The managers probably agreed on it together and gone, some fucking loopholes there, you know? And that's definitely what this is right now for Leicester, is a loophole. Now, if Leicester have got 6-7 COVID cases, fine. Call the game off. But as far as I can see at the moment, they don't. Therefore, the game should be taking place.
We have Ian Parrin. What's your views on the current Wordle craze? Can you see any crossover skills between Wordle and FPL? So firstly, James, do you have Wordle?
Do you know what? I did do one of them, right? Because I saw, obviously, Krellin had tweeted it out. Good old Ben. I thought, you know, if Ben needs sidetracking from fixture plan at the moment, maybe I should have a go as well. I did one. I got it right on the last go, the 5th attempt, and I was like, I've used 20 minutes trying to work this out. I was like, sod that. So yes, the comparisons are, it's about working things out. It's a little bit like Ben's obviously a fixture planner, Ian Parrin's a fixture planner, Lego Mane, all the other guys, Talon Adim, etc. You'll probably enjoy Wordle if you're into understand your fixture planning. I can imagine Sky Fantasy players would probably quite enjoy Wordle. It's the kind of the figuring things out. You get kind of clues.
I don't get it, mate. I've got Wordle.
Guess a word.
I've got Wordle on my phone. Is it the blue app? Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a W letter on.
I don't know what color the app is.
And there's a version you can play where you're just creating words, basically, like that. Is that Wordle?
Probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I've got Wordle on my phone, and I've actually never figured out
by the way,
the version of the game that is what everybody's tweeting about, because I just make words and get points. So I don't think I'm playing Wordle correctly, Ian. Ian, DM me on what I'm supposed to be doing in Wordle. But I'll tell you my opinion on Wordle, Ian, is wicked, because I give it to my kids and keeps them occupied for ages.
And it's educational.
Exactly. So I think I'm all for Wordle, and James has given you the crossover. Amber Redmond says, what's your favorite thing about your job? Payday. Maybe 27th of the month, maybe. Now, I like teaching people new stuff. That's the most rewarding thing about my job, is when working with people that are young, up and coming. And it doesn't have to be young, but learning and up and coming, and that I can teach new things and new skills to. That's the most rewarding thing for me. What about you?
Most rewarding, or thing you enjoy the most?
It says the thing you enjoy the most, your favorite thing.
Recording the podcast.
Actually, hands-on.
Straight as that, yeah. Yeah, this has to be the most enjoyable bit, is recording the podcast. Yeah,
I do think that we never know what's going to come out. There's always going to be some stuff that's going to come out that we hadn't planned for, no matter what we talk about prior to starting to hit record. Right. Okay. Let me pick another one. Mace wants you to tell him that Everton will double in game week 22, James. Please. Obviously, unfortunately, got hurt.
Everton will not double in game week 22. I'm not in for lying. I'm in for hypothesizing. It doesn't mean my hypothesis will be correct ever. But I can tell you that Everton are not going to double in game week 22.
Yeah.
It's a certainty.
Matt says, in one sentence, sum up the internet.
Actually, I say it's a certainty. That it's not a certainty, but it would need. I think it would need other cards to fall for Everton to have a double in 22. Now, there's no way anything's getting added unless other fixtures come out. I don't think.
Yeah. FPL pessimistic potato, James. Which of the two of you cooks better roast potatoes? You made roast potatoes.
No, but you then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, probably by default. I would say that my roasties come out good 50% of the time.
Actually, I think I have. I think I have, but I'm not a cookbook kind of guy, you know.
Yeah,
I didn't realize roast potatoes don't need a cookbook, by the way.
It's funny. I do the same process every single time. Heat the oil, make sure the oil's super hot before the potatoes go in, get them as dry as possible.
Do you like your roast potatoes burnt?
No, crunchy, crispy, but not burnt. Yeah,
but so, better to be overcooked than undercooked, right?
Agreed. So my missus now has gotten really good at roasties. The last few times that she made them spot on. The problem is now that she's so good at them that it's like, I'll do the roast. She'll say, I'll do the roasties. And I'll be like, no, I'm not going to argue.
It's like me being shit at the washing up, right?
Oh, let's not. I mean, my missus doesn't listen. Let's not start going down that road at all. Right, we've got a question in from McFlurry Oreos. Arsenal win the Champions League. Tottenham finish fourth and win the cup double. So you've got trophies in the cabinet, mate, but you're not going to play in the Champions League. Or
Tottenham, we finished fourth, right?
Or now you do qualify, don't you? Even if you finish fourth now. And you get and you win the double, cup double, that is.
FA Cup, Carabao Cup, yeah.
Yeah, but they've got the Champions League in the lockup.
Yeah, fine.
Or Tottenham finished 17th and trophyless, but Arsenal are relegated.
No, I'll take the trophies.
Yeah. I think the moral of that story there and the mindset behind it is...
I've got to go through 9 months of Tottenham being 17th. It's not... Yeah, the end would be quite funny, but no, listen, if my team finishes fourth in the league and wins 2 domestic cups, it's had a very good season. I love Tottenham far more than I hate the enemy. I say that several times.
I think that you got to want the positive for your club before you want the negative for any others.
Yeah. But there are people who would be like absolutely no to that, couldn't bear it. And
listen, I would not have been able to laugh at you lot for the first 50 minutes on yesterday had we not been winning. Like whilst we were not winning, it wasn't exactly like I'm not exactly in a place where I can look down. You got to want the best for your own team first and worry about your own garden and win before anything else. Question from Dan Cox, James.
There were way too many football fans who worry too much about what other fans are doing. Absolutely.
Correct. Agreed. Dan Cox, Sky Bite Size says, are you coming to Norwich on the last day of the season? Fancy an away day up in Norwich, James?
Yeah, definitely.
He is. Well, Dan's put a beer emoji next to the question, so points with Dan. I think that means that I'm buying. When you put the beer emoji, it means if you use the emoji, you're the one buying the beers. So Dan's buying you beers.
Right. Okay, cool.
No, I just made that up right now.
He's got to come to a location with me with about 1,000 other Tottenham fans, though. That's the deal.
Yeah. I think he'll manage that.
I will almost definitely be at Norwich final day, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We will have one more funny question, James, and then one serious question. So FPL discussion is how many times a week does Tanguy and Dombele eat McDonald's?
Oh, gosh. Less than James.
I tell you what, mate, I had the McPlant the other day because I'm trying to stay off the red meat a little bit. The McPlant, it's not bad. It's not bad.
It's like going to McDonald's and choosing the filet fish. You could have all the principal idea and you go, show what? I'm going to go to McDonald's. I'm going to get the McPlant. You walk in there and you go, no, fuck that.
I think it's obviously not as good, but it'll do.
What does it taste like?
70 to 80% of the way towards a beef burger. It's decent enough.
Right. So what's the other 20 to 30% taste like?
It's just not as good. It just hasn't got all the fatty, juicy flavor. But isn't Dombele a bit out of shape, overweight? Is he?
I tweeted this last night. I say last night, yesterday afternoon, coming back from the game. So I can't think of someone quite correctly said Paul Pogba, which I admit. But I'm struggling to think of a player who's had so much ability and just let himself down so much. In Pogba's case, at least you can say he's got the World Cup winners medal and all that shit to go with it. And Ndombele, before that World Cup, it was like he's going to break into the France team and stuff like that. And there was so much hype when we got him. It seemed like an amazing signing. I'd watched him dominate for Lyon at the Etihad in the Champions League. He was a player I'd had my eye on for a while, and particularly as a Moussa Dembele replacement. It seemed like all the right solutions. And listen, Poch, Mourinho, Mason, Nuno Santo, Conte, it can't all be wrong. At what point do you go, this is on the player? Mm-hmm. It's on the player. He doesn't have the desire for it. And therefore, I mean, he can't work in an Antonio Conte system and play without desire and stuff. And I don't think with him, he doesn't care, but his language style comes off that he doesn't. I don't think that he actually doesn't put the work in. I think a lot of it is can't, because for whatever reason, he can't get himself into physical condition to play 90 minutes. We've had him for 2.5 years and we can't get 90 minutes out of him.
It's still your record signing, isn't he, at 60 odd million?
It probably will be for a while. It's time to pull the plug. Tottenham have to accept, no, they're not going to get the 60 million back for it. If they can send him out on somewhere on loan and someone covers a lot of the wages and stuff, fine. Yeah, it's got to end. That's one too many yesterday. That is completely unforgivable for a footballer to leave a football pitch when their team's losing and not at least break out into a trot to get off, unless you're injured. And I've seen a few people saying maybe he was injured. He ain't injured.
No. And last question, James, which kind of gives us a segue into the topics for tomorrow's People's Poll, and we can plug whatever else we are releasing this week. Tom Campbell, the host of our end of year quiz, which is still a bit of fun. So if you haven't scrolled back and seen our big fat end of year quiz, do that. Tom did a great job of setting it up and hosting. Says, evening, guys. My longest standing mini league has been binned for the rest of the season. The consensus being that the game is becoming entirely arbitrary because of all the postponements. So a big majority wanted to sack it off. Have you guys seen any evidence of downturn in fantasy football engagement? Simple answer is yes. Right. I've seen a number of mini leagues that I'm in. Not that whole leagues have been sacked off yet, James, but individual players that are like, oh, it's all up anyway. And quite often it's people that have done reasonably well in the past that are doing shit, that are just binning it off. I wouldn't say it's been as widespread as any leagues being cancelled yet, like as in if they were under the table cash mini leagues or what have you. But I have seen players that are like, oh, whatever. People that would have strategized previously are just leaving at lastminute.com and making transfers on just whatever they feel like, which isn't always the worst thing, to be honest with you. And it is incredibly frustrating at the moment if you've bought and captained DCL, for example, or any other postponements that are happening so late. So, yeah, I definitely think there is a downturn in engagement right now.
It's certainly adding a layer of luck to the game. I don't want to go down the skill versus luck debate, which has been done to death in the past. But there is no real skill in knowing what games are going to get postponed or not, other than if you want to look at Ben Dinnery's injury table, you can look at it now and see that Leicester have 16 absentees. And then I think Watford have the next most, I want to say, maybe with 10. You could look at them and go, oh, they're the most likely to have a game postponed. But no, really, in seriousness, you can't legislate for this sort of thing, even to the extent that when obviously Liverpool and Arsenal was called off last Thursday, it killed the possibility of any double game week games in 22 going on the Thursday. That literally killed the prospect of double game week 22 having, say, 12 teams with doubles. Because that Thursday night could have had a couple of games. You could have had Leicester Tottenham on the Thursday night, Brighton Chelsea on the Thursday night. You could have had all those free Amazon games on the Wednesday, Burnley Watford on the Tuesday. And that could have been the double game week. But no, it didn't work out that way.
No, there we go. That's your pod for today, listeners. James, let's give everybody a rundown of what they've got to look forward to the rest of the week. I will then obviously let you know about our Patreon as well, where you can get additional content, which might keep you busy this week as well.
People's poll vote is live now. 3 options. This will be open to about 6 o'clock UK time on Twitter today. Fantasy football's impact on mental health is a potential subject. There was a study released last week. It's a bit conflicting in terms of if all of it's true or not. It seems kind of very apt at the moment with the way some people are, exactly what you said, a little bit frustrated with what's happening at the moment. We can have a look at the transfer window if you prefer, what clubs are looking to do what. Southampton had a very interesting takeover, which has echoes of what happened at Brentford, which is the 3rd option in the vote. We can talk about that if you prefer. Wednesday will be Sky Fantasy Football, as per usual. Thursday's Clash to Correspondence is Aston Villa, ahead of potential treble game week. Who knows? And Manchester United definitely ahead of their game week 22 double with Lee Jackson and Gary Robinson. Friday, Suj, it's deadline. It means no Ask James stream. It means me and you are doing a bit of a special Friday morning. We are going to predict free hit 22 teams. And who knows, we might be active on the chip by then. But we're going to have a look at what we would pick if we were on a free hit on Friday. We've realized that so many people are going to be on it. So we're going to have a look in any case in terms of what we'd pick. I don't think there's any point in doing that right now because we just don't have enough information. It would be better to do it fresh ahead of deadline. Patreon podcast for the week, Suj. It's our Q&A today. Dan, the FPL man's doing our quiz tomorrow for us, Suj, on the inaugural Premier League season, 1992-93. Yeah. Wednesday, I'm doing a special with Dan Ashby on Gaffer. Really important strategy period in that game at the moment over the next few game weeks. There's more chip talk for Gaffer Fantasy on Wednesday's Patreon pod. We're going to delay Tottenham till Thursday so we can do all the detail from Tottenham, Chelsea and West Ham, Norwich on Wednesday night. And if Southampton Brentford still goes ahead, we might even talk about that on that podcast as well.
Why not?
Friday will be our game week 22 differential show previewing Double Game Week 22. The advanced tier content this week includes, I got a 9 a.m. UK time Zoom call on Thursday, hoping that some of my down under patrons will join me for a breakfast on Thursday. Talking Tactics this week is going to be looking regretfully at how Thomas Tuchel's back 4 and change of tactics dismantled Tottenham in the Carabao Cup semi-final first leg last week. And I'll have that out before Wednesday night's second leg.
Sounds good. Listeners, if you fancy that extra content, then you can head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL, where at the intermediate tier, you not only help keep the lights on and the bills paid, you get access to all of that additional information, as well as some mini leagues that we run. You can still win the Manager of the Month between now and the end of the season, and a very active Slack channel that has fans and correspondents from every single club represented. There's channels for all the different games that are going on. As James mentioned, Gaffer, Sky, even Champman now, which has kicked off, and
Fantasy
so on.
Scotland.
Exactly, the lot.
UCL Fantasy.
A really nice community, just over 500 people in there that you can come and interact with. Good bunch. So yeah, do head over to patreon.com if you want to help support the show. Other than that, just leaves me to stay safe, and we'll be back at you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. No early transfers, please. Cue music, please, man, child.